do we go here? There we go. Quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is used to solve a quadratic equation. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And unlike some of the other methods we've used, the quadratic formula always works. Right? Not everything factors, so that's sometimes annoying about factoring. You can't always use the square root method because sometimes there's an x in there. Complete the square always works, but sometimes it's annoying because if a is 3 or 7, you got to divide by that first. Quadratic formula always works. And I think you've seen it before. Anybody want to volunteer it? It is that song. I will sing it for you. I was just curious if anybody remembered the formula, not necessarily the song. Negative b plus or minus. Anybody? Square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Make sure it's all over 2a. You just straight up have to memorize that. You've got to know that. So whatever it takes, whatever your preferred memorization method is, write it on a note card, write it on your bathroom mirror, carry it around with you, have your parents quiz you on it. Whatever works, you've got to know the quadratic formula. And one way to know it is the song some of you are familiar with. Get my singing voice warmed up in honor of Sound of Music, I guess. Do you guys know the song, or you heard the song, you don't remember it, or you lie, and so I'd have to sing by myself. All right, here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Yeah? Yeah? Bookmark that on the video and clip that, going viral. Next American Idol, here I come. Let's go. Okay, so I guess the good news is that's it for today. I mean, we'll use it. You have to simplify things, but you're supposed to already know how to simplify things. So it's just that formula. Let's do an example together. 18 minus 6x equals 7x squared. Okay, well, any idea why we don't really want to use the formula just yet? Yeah, I need to move it over so it equals 0. It doesn't really matter which way I move it. I generally like my x squared to be positive, so I'm going to move it over to the right side to keep the 7x squared positive. But it works either way, so if you wanted to move the 7x squared over and make it negative, that would be fine too. But I'm going to move the 6x over, the 18 over. And then a step that you probably won't do but a few times, but I'm going to do it this first time to make sure we're okay. And that is take the time to label and call out who's A and B and C. So, Mateo, in this equation, who's A, or what is A? Oh, good catch. If you heard him, he caught himself. He said 7x squared first, but it's not the x squared, it's only the 7. But that is a common mistake, and if you start plugging in the x's into this formula, it gets really ugly. It's only the coefficients for A, B, and C. So, Aiden, how about B? What's B equal to? 6. And Haley, C? Negative 18. Okay, so let's give it a go here. You would, like your A, B, and C would all have different signs, but in the end you would get the same answer. So that's a good question. That's the one where if you're comparing with my answer key or comparing with a friend and they worked it with the opposite signs, things might look a little different along the way, but you should still land at the same spot. Okay, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared. I can do a little mental math on the way here. What's b squared? 36 minus 4ac all over 2a. Yep, I heard the calculator lid come off because, I could do 4 times 7 times negative 18, but so probably what I want to put in the calculator is not the whole thing, because then I'd get some weird decimal. I don't want that. But I could put that part in the calculator. It'll be part calculator, part no calculator on the test. And so obviously this would be on the calculator part. 36 minus 4 times 7 times negative 18. Equals 540 all over 14. Again, don't put that whole thing in the calculator for a couple of reasons. One is there's not a plus or minus button. You would have to do those separately. Another is the square root of 540 is some ugly decimal that we don't want to mess with. So use the calculator, but use it wisely. Don't just, shove everything in the calculator and trust whatever it tells you. Okay, so I got to figure out how to mess with 540. Well, I have a calculator, so what do you think 540 is divisible by?
9.
It is divisible by 9. It's definitely divisible by 10. I want it to be divisible by perfect squares, though. So I heard 9 first. I'm going to do 9 first. And that would get me a square root, right? I could take the square root of 9. But what about 60? Does 60 have a perfect square in there? 15 and 4. So I can rewrite 540 as the square root of 9 times 4 times 15. Why would I choose to split it up that way? Right, I can take out the 4 and the 9 as a 2 and a 3. Oops, all over 14. So negative 6, plus or minus. So what can come out? What number will be on the outside?
2.
Not just a 2, though. 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Or 9 times 4 is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. The 15 doesn't have any perfect square factors. You could break it into 3 and 5, but that doesn't really help anything. All over 14. Okay, am I done? How can I reduce that? I can divide everybody by 2. I'm a little short on space, so I'm not going to show the long way around. I'm going to trust that you can divide everything by 2. So there's my answer. How many answers is that? 2, because the plus or the minus. It's an x squared problem, so it should have 2 answers. You could check that. Most people would not, but how would you check it if you wanted to? Plug it back in. It'd be kind of annoying. Although you have a calculator, so maybe it wouldn't be terrible. But you would plug it back into the original and see if you got that 18 minus 6x is equal to 7x squared. We'll do some more of those together in a moment. Again, you just got to know the formula. So know the formula, and then know how to do the stuff that we're supposed to already know how to do. Okay, now there's a piece of this formula that is a little bit more important, not more important, has an extra use to it, and that's the b squared minus 4ac thing. Because it's under the radical, it controls what type of answers we get. Right? Because if I take the square root of a negative number, then I get imaginary stuff. If I take the square root of a positive number, I get real answers, like that's what happened on this one. What happens if b squared minus 4ac is 0? What would that do? What's the square root of 0? 0. And so how many answers would I get? I would only get 1, because I do plus 0 minus 0, but that's the same thing. So this b squared minus 4ac, kind of important enough to get its own name. B squared minus 4ac. Not the square root part, just the underneath part. B squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant. Discriminant. Because the discriminant tells us the number, not equals, maybe an arrow, tells us the number and type of solutions. Well, it gives us a kind of a hint ahead of time of what our answers will look like. So in some sense, it's built into the equation, so it sort of takes care of itself. But there are applications where you want to know what type of answers you're going to get without actually doing the whole thing. And so this helps you focus in on the key part of that formula to know what type of answers you'll get. The discriminant there, if that sounds like discrimination, it's because it is, but it's not like the bad discrimination. But it does discriminate in terms of it separates into what types of solutions you get. So it's not the bad discrimination, it's the math discrimination. We sort of said this already. If b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, imaginary, right? Because then you're taking the square root of a negative number, which means you'll have 2, actually we could put the plus or minus on there, you'd have 2 imaginary solutions. Right? If b squared minus 4ac equals 0, then you got plus or minus the square root of 0, but the square root of 0 is 0, plus or minus 0 is the same thing, so you get one real solution. And what's my only other option left here? Greater than 0. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, then you got plus or minus the square root of a positive number. So you have 2 real solutions. Now, I hope this is not something that you have to memorize, because if you understand where b squared minus 4ac is in the quadratic formula, then it's easy to figure out which case you have. So it's not like you have to memorize this table. So I'm not going to highlight, star, box this table, because if you're trying to take the square root of a negative number, you get 2 imaginaries. If you take the square root of 0, you get 1 real. If you take the square root of a positive number, you get 2 real answers. So it's important, but it's important in a way that you can figure out, not have to memorize. So you memorize the formula, and then you know that part of the formula is the discriminant. By the way, what's the rest of that formula? Thank you, sir. Negative b over 2a. You recognize what that is? That's the x-coordinate of the vertex. Throw in that other stuff, you get the solutions. So very much related. That whole thing tells us the zeros. Zeros, solutions, roots, x-intercepts. Good reminder. All of those things are the same thing, and the quadratic formula tells us those things. Yeah, we got time. Little side note here. X equals negative b over 2a. That also tells us the axis of symmetry. Right? Because it's the x-coordinate of the vertex, which is the axis of symmetry. And so wherever that crosses the x-axis, if we go plus or minus on either side of it, plus on one side, minus on the other side, that's where we get our x-intercepts. So negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. But for some people, seeing a little picture connects the negative b over 2a part to the rest of it. Okay, let's do a few together. Yeah. So let's flip to today's worksheet is this assignment. So this is your homework, but we got time. We'll do some of it together today. So let's try, why don't you try 1 and 2 and 3. Find the discriminant of each quadratic. So number 1 is just find the discriminant. Number 2 is find the discriminant and then make the conclusion. Like, what does that mean if the discriminant is whatever you got it to be? So discriminant. You know what? Let's write this one more time at the top because writing it helps your brain remember it. And I want to sing it one more time. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then rather than write the discriminant separately, I'm just going to highlight it on the inside there to know that that piece of the quadratic formula is the discriminant. So it's not two formulas today. It's one formula, but really understanding all the pieces of it. Okay, try 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll see what happens. Mason, what did you do first? We already know some people forgot this. Move the 7 over. Yeah. 3n squared minus 5n. When you move the 7 over?
I don't realize that I did that.
Minus 8. Oh. And then there's A, B, and C. If you need to write them down, write them down. So b squared minus 4ac. And then at this point, why risk messing anything up? 25 minus 4 times negative 3 times negative 8. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong?
Negative 3.
It's positive 3, you're right. 121. And again, because that's going to be what's under the square root, that'll get me 2 real answers. Kinley? Okay, great question on number 3. Do I divide through by 5 or not? The answer is it won't matter. It won't matter. So if you recognize that, and you're like, hey, let's divide by 5 and make our problem easier, then do it. If you don't recognize it and you just plug in b squared minus 4ac, which is what Emery did, what'd you get for
0?
The discriminant is 0. So one real answer. Uh-oh, do we not like that answer?
No. Sorry, I was wait, so is it the thing where, like, since the 5's out and the, like, 5 becomes a 0, that it's just, like...
Well, since it's an equation, you can divide through by 5 and just be done with it. Okay, we need to do a real one together because that was tricky and that was only part of the equation.
What happened? Number 3. Where's the answer?
The answer is 0 because b squared, 10 squared minus 4ac is 0.
But you didn't solve it. You didn't get the number. You have to.
But I know that in my quadratic formula is plus or minus the square root of 0. Doesn't really matter what the rest is. Plus 0 minus 0, that's going to be the same thing. So I'm going to have one answer. I don't have to do the whole thing to know that there's only going to be one answer. All right, so jump down and try 6. Although, to Kinley's question, Kinley, what would you like to do first on number 6? Even better than factors, since it's an equation, I can divide it out. So yes, you could sit it out front, but since it's an equation, you can divide it out and make life a little easier. And then do x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Thank you. Yeah, you put it right there.